All right, what's going on and welcome. 5 o'clock on a Thursday. One more day left in your work week, and haga-laga, you got yourself a weekend. We'll welcome our Dollar Loan Center video audience to this segment of the program. You can find this on our YouTube channel, KTIK Style. Bob Beeler is in for Mike Prater today. Prater had a wedding to go to that I'm sure he's just having a grand old time at right now, Bob. And we've been playing a game today. It's, how many college basketball arenas has Bob Beeler called a game in? And I said, dude, if anybody can guess this number, I'll give you $100 out of my wallet right now. Nice, crisp $100 bill. Bunch of people are taking guesses, and luckily I don't have to make with the $100 so far. And the other game we're playing is name an arena in college basketball. We're going to see if Bob has called the game there.
So are the numbers that are being guessed, and we're gonna close it off now, right? We have guesses in there.
One guy, Johnny Golf Game in Eagle, says 76 schools.
Okay.
Another guy, Stan the race car guy, says 213 schools. There's like 350, 360 possibilities, and Bob guessed at the beginning of the show. You thought, I've been to maybe about a third of all the arenas. In a commercial break, you did the calculation. You have the exact number. Bob, let's get back to it in 10, 15 minutes or so. People can keep guessing. And again, if you can guess try to bust Bob, if you can guess an arena that he has not called the game, and we'll give you a little bonus.
Just to say that there are more schools out there that I have not called at than have called at, but it is a high number. It's under 50%.
Very high. Like one guy said the Kennel in Spokane for the Zags, and you were saying, no, you've never called the game at the Kennel. Leon won't play Mark Few, but you've called the Gonzaga game.
In Key Arena in Seattle.
Yeah, see, that kind of counts if you could say at least, hey, I've called the Zags game. Who are they playing?
UMass. We played them in one of those special games. I guess they play one game a year over in Seattle. So we were the team that they had Adam Morrison that year, so you can guess probably who won.
Okay. Damn it. Somebody just had a guess, and I think they might have guessed it, but I'm not going to say anything on that. We'll come back to it. I do not want to give one of these stinky Sullivans out there $100 for guessing a stupid number. JP, you gotta pull the reins on me a little better. You can't let me do this. Like
I believe I said live on the air
I can always go count again and see if I can change the number.
Prater never would have.
I might have missed one.
Bob, the transfer portal closed officially for football and basketball. This is a conversation kind of with football and basketball. Why players stay, why players go, why somebody should go, why somebody should stay. And I think an example of why somebody should stay, and the stars have to align on this, right? But there are two instances on campus right now at Boise State, and I think over time, I'm talking the next decade, maybe the next 2 decades, we are going to look back and say, wow, what an excellent decision it was for Ashton Jeanty and Tyson Degenhart.
Well, I'm going to start with Tyson. And first of all, if you look at somebody over the time they've been here that has made a bigger impact in the community, he's out at places. I mean, you watch him, he goes to the softball games a lot. His girlfriend's one of the pitchers on the team.
He's at every game.
He is as friendly with whoever comes up, pictures, etc. There is no better ambassador for Boise State sports than Tyson Degenhart. But he's got a shot this year. He's going to end up as a top 5 scorer all time in school history.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
He could end up number 1, but a lot would have to go right. We might have to play a few games in the conference tournament, maybe a couple games in postseason, but he could end up number 1. But he just looks to me like a guy, and I know he was from the area to start, but somebody like a Matt Boucher, somebody that ends up staying here. And I've never discussed this with Tyson, so I don't know what his hopes and dreams are. It depends on what you want to do post basketball. But I think people a lot of times only think of their life with their ability to play basketball. And I think most people transfer for playing time. They want more playing time, and that's why most of the people go.
Throw money in there now a little bit too, because there's a lot of guys who leave who get all the playing time they want, and the only reason they're leaving is because the other school says here's a bag of dough.
And probably Abo would have fallen in that category.
100%.
But I could see Degenhart being somebody that in 30, 40 years is still in Boise, and just one of those guys, I think. legacy, which is going to be his. He's going to be in the conversation. You know, we talk about these guys coming back from, you know, to play in this, you know, TBT basketball tournament. You're going to talk about Tyson Degenhart as one of the best players ever to play at Boise State. But I think if he would have left and gone to some other school for his final year, I don't think that he would have the same feel with people in Boise. And I don't mean just Boise. I'm saying you could take that same scenario to any school in the country. You didn't finish with your team. You know, so I think there is something to that. And I again, one of my favorite players all time. And not only just because he's good, but because he's a great guy to deal with. And the same thing I would say for Ashton Jeanty. Ashton's headed to the pros, in my opinion. And, you know, I would think that this probably is going to be his last year. He is going to be, I think, so much more thought of as a guy that, boy, accomplished all this at the same place. If you went to another school now for your last year and then left, I just don't know that the other school would look at you the same. Like, let's say he's from Texas.
They wouldn't.
If he went to Texas, Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell both played 4 years at Texas.
Heisman winners, both of them.
But let's say even if he won, I still think the fact that those guys were there 4 years.
Yes.
I think there's something special about somebody that plays their entire career. And I'd say this with pros too. I think a lot of pro guys, when they leave to go 1 year to play for somebody else, I think there's something special when you play your whole career with the team.
Think about this, Bob, and I've never been in the position that these kids are in, these young adults are in, where, you know, they get the fast cash on one end. That's going to be several hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe upwards towards 7 figures. And they can say, okay, that is a great nest egg. I can start my life with this money. I can put it away. There's a million things you can do with that money. So you take as much as you can. It's not necessarily about the program you're going to go to. If you're going to be there 1 year, you're right. Unless you win a national championship. I mean, the only 1 year guy I can think of, and you guys can text in if you think you have him too, but I'm thinking Gardner Minshew in Pullman. Like they treat him like he's a 4-year starter. He was there 1 month, but they won a ton of games. He left a massive impression, and Gardner Minshew goes back to Pullman. He was there at their spring game. And Mike Leach, rest in peace, isn't the coach there anymore, obviously. Gardner still goes back. Most guys like that, no, you don't have yourself that opportunity anymore. So I think I know what you're saying. You know, Tyson Degenhart could have went to another school that's going to pay him more money than what he's going to make at Boise State next year. But it's not necessarily a 1 year plan for T. Daggy. It's a 40-year plan. It's a 20-year plan. And can Tyson Degenhart make more money total from this community over the next 20 years than if, say, he would have went up to Spokane or went over to Eugene or Corvallis or whatever program might have put a couple $100,000 in his pocket? He's never going to get any more money, you would think, from that school or that community as a hired gun. Unless, of course, you know, you win the Naismith Award, you go to the Final Four, you win a Natty, all that stuff. So maybe more athletes should consider the 40-year long-term plan than just the fast cash. But you also, as a player, your shelf life is so small. Yeah.
I mean, let's say you finish now. I mean, the guys coming back in July for the event, most of those guys have been out somewhere, what do you think, between 4 and 10 years they've been out?
We're talking about the TBT team.
Right,
Me and you know the roster. Nobody else does, though, so don't. We're not saying any names. But yeah, a lot of those guys have played at Boise State in the last 10, 15 years.
Right. So they're still playing pros. But if you fast forward, we put another 5 years on the calendar.
Okay.
They may not be playing in the pros. There's so much more of your life left.
I know, it's funny, and you know this because we've all been young.
Yeah.
You say I called BS when I was a kid. Every time I heard, "Oh, your whole life's in front of you. Your life hasn't even started yet." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm 19. I can vote." Ugh, you know, we're so dumb. I can't remember who said it, but they said it so well. Youth is wasted on the young, right? You know, because when you're young and you have youth, you don't know the power of youth when you have it. Yeah. It's when you lose it that you understand the power of being young. And when you get older, you try to convey that. Like I'm buddies with Max Rice. I talked to him about stuff like that. Like, dude, you have no. I mean, you're gonna blink your eye and you're gonna be 35. I promise you. And he's just like, what? 35? That's so. I mean, I'm telling you, Maxie, it'll creep up on you. And you know this. It does. And to be able to do what Tyson Degenhart and Ashton Genty have done, and how about this too? Set an example. Set the bar. Build the mold, Bob Beeler, of hey. This is a better plan than going to the SEC, having to win a job, beat the hell out of yourself on a one-year deal at a program that's never going to remember you most likely versus, hey, what's my total power here in Boise for the rest of my life? I mean, to me, in a lot of cases, okay, if I can keep collecting checks in Boise for the next 30 years, it's not going to take long, Bob, before that sum totals more than the sum you got from the SEC school for 1 year.
But then when you look at Chibuzo Abo, he'd been at Texas Tech for 2 years. He'd been here for 2 years. Gets one more year to play. If what reports are out there and true, that would be pretty difficult to turn down.
Okay.
I don't know that I could sit here and make the same argument about him staying or going.
See, Bozo is an interesting one. Because, maybe he wouldn't have fell into that Tyson legacy category. But if he was, running sidekick to Tyson next year, like the plan was, and next year they kicked the door down, and Bob Beeler, for the first time in his career, called a victory in an NCAA tournament game, Bozo, I would have thought, would have had that staying power now. And I don't think Bozo even cares, and good for him on this. This is sports radio stuff. Bozo doesn't have a home. He's not coming back here and saying, oh, it's a Bronco. Oh, it's a Bronco, right? When's Bozo night? When am I going to show up at a random game and wave to the audience? He can't go back to Lubbock. He left there after 2 years. And what? I don't think Heritage Hall is going to make any statues for Bozo being a one-year player at USC. He doesn't really have a home. It's when a lot of players are like that.
But I think, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on if you make the move and it's good, you're going to see a lot more people. I mean, I've seen guys now that they put up there that play for 4 teams in 4 years or 5 years or however many years with COVID they were allowed to play with and with the transfer. It's unbelievable. I mean, used to be if you saw one guy every once in a while that transferred, that used to be a lot, like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
They made it so difficult to transfer.
Hey, check this one out. Postal Big John just texted the program, and he said, I wanted to let you both know I've personally seen Tyson Degenhart all over Boise, and he always has a smile.
Yeah.
I've seen him at restaurants. I've seen him at Steelhead games. I just saw him this Sunday in the parking lot for the softball team. I thanked him for the past season and said, can't wait to next year. His response was, hopefully we can have a record-breaking year. People are going to want to do business with Tyson Degenhart. They're going to want to be in business with Tyson Degenhart. They just are. He knows this, and Ashton Genty is laying that same groundwork too. Ashton Genty was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I love him saying this because I'm a huge fan of this location. I was just there yesterday. But Ashton Genty said, I can't go to Costco without numerous people coming up, asking for pictures. And I've seen Ashton Genty at basketball games, Bob. I know you were on the call, but Ashton Genty was at more basketball games than any other football player I saw. And after every game he would have stayed there for an hour if everybody in the building wanted a picture with him. People are going to want to be in the business with Ashton Genty too. And football careers are a lot shorter than basketball. Let's go to Tommy. He's holding on the Double Tap Pub hotline. Tom, what do you know? What do you say? Bring it.
Hey, a couple things on your 2 points for, staying versus going and using the Abo as the example.
Yeah.
Maybe a guy doesn't worry. Maybe he's more concerned, or any person, not him specifically, but any person concerned with their future instead of reliving their past. Okay. Instead of saying, well, how am I going to be remembered in other places? Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it's about the best situation. I make more money now, and then maybe I have more opportunity. They go to a bigger place, and again, their choice, but they go so they don't have to walk around the mall and wait for people to notice them, or go into a place and hope that someone remembers they used to play football or basketball at Boise State, because I think we've all seen that, and it can be a little sad.
Mm-hmm.
But then they say, okay, I went to a bigger place. And again, we use the Abo. He goes to USC. Let's assume that his post-college basketball career takes a similar path, whether it's, at the end of an NBA bench, whether it's overseas, whether it's a combination of much, or he just gets, or he's one of those people that ends up catching on and having longevity. We won't even judge it on the money. We'll just talk it on the longevity. So maybe he goes to that other place, assume it's bigger, because most places are bigger than Boise, and his after basketball life is just as good, if not better, than it is someplace else in not Boise, and he ends up may have the opportunity to make more post basketball money. I mean, just because he stays here, any athlete stays here, doesn't mean they're going to have a better life than if they go to someplace bigger. Quality of life here is great. Beeler knows that. He's lived somewhere else. I know that. I've lived somewhere else. But sometimes, again, it's not going into a place and hoping somebody noticed me because I used to play at Boise State.
Well, and then the other thing for Abo is he is from Southern California. He's from San Diego. Yep. If he's interested in having family and friends come watch him in his final season of college basketball, he's just made it a lot easier for his family and friends to do that.
Absolutely. There's a million different options. We're not saying one is the right way or the wrong way. And, you could even take Boise out of it. Just any school, the long-term and immensely, or what is it? Immersing yourself into a community, Boise or wherever. Sometimes that is advantages. You're right. Some people, and good for them too, they don't give a rip. They don't care about the community. They're here to play ball and get out and make some cash, and I respect that too as well.
The best thing is that the college athlete has the opportunity to make whatever decision is best for them.
Right? Yeah, they can make the option that they have the option that the coaches always have. Let's get back to the two newest members of the Boise State basketball team when we come back. Beeler's in for Prater. It's Idaho Sports Talk.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studios, this is Ticket Traffic.